Let's jump right in, shall we? Welcome to our explainer on the ever-evolving world of science. Now, if you've ever thought of science as just, this dry, sterile collection of facts you have to memorize for a test, well, it's time to completely toss that idea out the window. What we're actually looking at today is how science is really an open invitation. It's this incredible call to actively question things, to get our hands dirty with experiments, and to really explore the beautiful and, honestly, sometimes chaotic world we live in. Take a second and picture kids playing with paper airplanes. It seems like just a silly game, right? But learning literally takes flight when curiosity leads the way. I mean, did you know that something as basic as folding a paper plane actually inspired real, groundbreaking scientific explorations of flight? Seriously, from early inventors who spent hours carefully studying the shape of bird wings, all the way to modern engineers designing supersonic jets, that massive, world-changing dream of flying, it started with super simple observations and hands-on experiments, just like tossing a paper plane across a room. And that brings us to another absolutely crucial piece of the puzzle: imagination. There's this wonderful, playful little detail in the source material we're looking at, where the page numbers actually follow the fluttering, erratic path of a butterfly. It's a perfect metaphor. Just as a butterfly flutters freely, we're encouraged to just let our imagination soar. Science isn't some rigid rule book. It requires a real flexibility of mind to explore new ideas, discover hidden wonders, and quite literally, reach for the skies. Section 1. Beyond the classroom, experience the world. So, to truly wrap our heads around our environment, we literally have to step out of the textbook and outside those classroom walls. We need to experience the world directly through activities and experiments. But here's the thing. It's not just about the thrill of discovery, right? It's about responsibility. As we become young science explorers, we start to connect the dots and see exactly how human activities impact the natural world. These hands-on experiences are vital stepping stones. They help us realize the critical role science plays in addressing very real environmental challenges. And ultimately, they help us figure out how to build a much more sustainable world for all of us. Moving on to Section 2, Interconnected Science, Connecting Fields. We often tend to put physics, chemistry, biology, and earth science into their own little separate boxes. But the reality? They are deeply, deeply intertwined. A spark of an idea in one area almost always lights a fire of discovery in another. Just think about the sheer breadth of everyday mysteries we can explore. Like, why are some fruits super sour? What exact chemical reaction is happening when you try to wash a stubborn turmeric or haldi stain out of your favorite shirt? How do massive glaciers melt? Or what causes the mind-blowing phenomenon of solar and lunar eclipses? These aren't just random trivia facts for a game show. They are interconnected doorways that lead us right into chemistry, physics, and planetary science. And we actually start making sense of this giant, interconnected web by simply observing and classifying the materials around us. We group things based on their properties and how they change. I mean, we know from everyday experience that a flashlight battery eventually runs out of juice and is done. We watch ice melt into water, we see fruits ripening on the kitchen counter, or rocks slowly breaking down into pebbles over time. Some of these changes can be reversed, but some absolutely cannot. Some happen way faster when we crank up the heat. By simply observing how heat flows, whether we're talking about an ice tube melting in your glass or an entire glacier melting in the ocean, guess what? We are doing real foundational science. Which actually brings us to a really fascinating concept. How do we even measure time, and how do we figure out how fast something happens? Think about it. Long before we had smartwatches buzzing on our wrists, early humans just observed the shadows cast by the sun. They used the changing positions of those shadows to tell time. And that simple, everyday act of noticing shadows, it completely paved way for a much deeper understanding of light. Asking questions about the nature of light didn't just eventually give us the ability to read a book at night, it unlocked our entire understanding of how the Earth and Moon cast shadows to create eclipses, and essentially, how our whole universe operates. It's like a giant puzzle. Okay, Section 3. Question the answer, Activity 1.1. Now, here is where we hit a massive paradigm shift. In traditional school settings, or when you're taking a test, you're given a question and your whole job is just to find the answer, right? But if we really want to think like scientists, we have to flip that script completely. The true scientific method recognizes that the greatest minds don't just sit around answering existing questions, they ask amazing, entirely new ones. Generating a truly creative question requires so much more imagination than just recalling a fact you memorized last week. I absolutely love this quote from our source material. To be a wise person, you must be a wise person. Let that sink in for a second. A wise person. WHYS. It's that relentless pursuit of why that has literally driven all human progress. So, we are going to put this into practice right here, right now. We're flipping the script. I am going to give you the answer, and your job is to invent the question. The rule here is incredibly simple. Let your imagination run completely wild. Seriously, there are absolutely no wrong questions. Just try to come up with a curious, creative, and fun scenario that could possibly lead to the answers I'm about to throw at you. Ready? Okay, here's your very first answer. Because the cat's teeth were crooked. So, what's the question? Seriously, what kind of wild, bizarre scenario leads to that specific answer? Why on earth would a cat's crooked teeth be the explanation for something? Did the cat bite into a block of cheese and leave behind a really weird forensic pattern? Did the reflection from a laser pointer hit its tooth and go completely haywire? That is exactly the kind of out-of-the-box mindset we want to cultivate here. Let's keep the momentum going. Next answer, just add some milk. Okay, what is the question? Now, don't just go for the obvious, hey, how do I make my coffee better? Try to push way beyond that. What if the question was actually, how do we neutralize this incredibly spicy chemical reaction we just accidentally unleashed in the kitchen? See? Thinking creatively like that is exactly what being a wise person is all about. All right, how about this one? The answer is, don't panic. I have my towel. What in the world is the question? Are you about to get completely soaked by a massive wave generated by a physics experiment gone wrong? Are you hitchhiking across the galaxy? The beauty of this exercise is that it totally forces your brain to build context, to reverse engineer a situation completely from scratch. And guess what? That is the exact same creative muscle used by the absolute best scientists in the world. And finally, we arrive at this totally iconic number. The answer is simply 42. So, what is the question? The source explicitly challenges you here to find something a lot more interesting than just what is 32 plus 10. And it even asks you to avoid that famous sci-fi trope of what is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. So I'm asking you, what is your unique question? I'm going to leave you to ponder that. Because at the end of the day, science isn't just about me or anyone else handing you all the answers. It's about empowering you to look closely at the world, notice the tiny details, and start asking your own brilliant, unignorable questions. So what question are you going to ask today? Keep exploring, stay curious, and always, always keep asking why.